Hey guys, it is winter break for me, which means you guys are probably gonna get like significantly more videos in a short time span, and then I'm gonna fly off the radar again because that's what I do. So here's the first one of probably many. Actually, it might even be the second one if I've already posted the Frozen video. If I did, go check that out. I've been working really hard on it. I'm so obsessed with Frozen. But enough about Frozen for now. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorites throughout the year of 2019. Okay, well I have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's go ahead and get started with TV. And of course, by TV, I mean streaming services like Netflix. So the first thing that I watched on Netflix this year was something that one of my friends had been recommending to me for like a whole year, and finally in 2019 I got around to it. And that is Voltron, Legendary Defenders, the new version. And yes, this is a show that's targeted towards kids. What can I say? I like wholesome stuff. This show is based on the original Voltron series from like the 80s, I believe, and it's actually created by the same people who made Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I really loved all the Avatar stuff as a kid, so watching Voltron felt kind of nostalgic for me. The same kind of humor and a bit of the animation style was similar. I gotta say, I avoided Voltron for a long time because I knew it was one of those shows about like people who form a big mech suit thing, and I was like, I don't know, that sounds like weird and violent and not my style. But I actually really enjoyed it. Obviously, because it's targeted at kids, it's not crazy violent, and you also just get to know each of the 5 main characters, and I don't know, I just got attached to the characters, especially Pidge. And I had totally forgotten about this, but when Crystal originally recommended the show to me, she was like, you need to watch this show because you are exactly like Pidge. And I watched it and I was like, holy crap, I'm exactly like Pidge. But yeah, I guess a bit of a spoiler for like the 3rd episode of the entire series, but Pidge is a girl who presents in a very masculine way. She has like super short hair, she has like baggy clothes. I mean, she's like a 14-year-old girl, so she can easily pass as a boy. In fact, she does for the first few episodes. And then even after it becomes like, what? You're a girl? That's crazy. She just keeps dressing the way that she dresses, which I find awesome, because I feel like a lot of the time when that happens in TV shows, like, it's kind of a trope, right, where someone reveals that, oh, I've been a girl the whole time, and they're like, okay, well, time for me to wear makeup and dresses, which is fine, obviously, makeup and dresses are super fine for people, but I just like that Pidge is like, hey, I'm a girl, and I'm gonna continue to wear the exact same clothes, and do a bunch of awesome tech stuff, and be like, just a bad chick. And I also love how she is like a main girl in a pretty male-dominated cast and has basically no explicitly stated romantic interest in any of the guys. I love me some representation in media of girls and guys being friends and it not being awkward at all. Like, it's crazy how little we see that. It's totally a thing that can happen. So anyway, I love Pidge. I could probably rant about how much I love Pidge for like 12 years. After watching Voltron, I wanted to cut all my hair off and like get big glasses and just be like, hi, I'm Pidge Hulk, look at me. But I got over it a little bit. But oh my goodness, she is absolutely how I was when I was that age. Whew, love me some Pidge. Moving on. Okay, I know I ranted a lot about Voltron, but I'm also going to rant a lot about Star Trek. Once we get past these two, I promise it'll speed up a little bit. But I started watching Star Trek this year, and that is a very big undertaking, right? There is a lot of material out there with Star Trek. I had not watched anything, ever. Like, it was so bad that when I was watching my first episode of The Next Generation, my husband, Eric, walked in, and he was like, oh, cool, you're watching Star Trek. And I was like, yeah, I've met, this character, and Picard, and, like, isn't there a guy named Kirk and he and Picard like fight or something? I knew nothing. All I knew was that like people would say, oh, Kirk this, Picard this. So I thought they were like 2 opposing forces. Yeah, apparently they're from 2 different shows. So anyway, I started with The Next Generation and I loved it. It may become obvious that this year I had a really big thing for just like getting obsessed with like one character. In Next Generation, that character for me was Data. Everyone loves Data, right? He's just great. He's hilarious. You have to like feel for him because he can't feel for himself. And you just like, You gotta love Data. But yeah, this year I started watching Next Generation, the original series, Deep Space Nine, and all of the movies that aren't the Abrams movies. I'll get to those eventually. But yeah, Next Generation I really, really liked. It's fun to watch the older Star Trek stuff because it's supposed to be in the future, but at the same time you're like, oh, the 80s, the 90s. And yeah, it's very sci-fi, which is fun, but like it also has a lot to do with, I don't know, progressive politics sort of things, very challenging like moral issues. Especially once you get to like Deep Space Nine, there's a lot of like really, really interesting moral stuff. So Star Trek will make you ask questions that you never thought that you would ask. I love Picard. I feel like you're always going to be partial to your first captain, so by starting out with Next Generation, I'm probably always going to have Picard as my favorite, just like when I started watching Doctor Who. Started with the 10th Doctor, and he's always going to be my favorite. But after Next Generation, I started the original series. Eric had watched all of the Next Generation with me, but he did not want to watch the original series, because he's like, it's going to be like dated and sexist and weird, and I'm like, yeah, I guess, but I want to watch everything before I make judgments on it. And I'm not gonna lie, I freaking loved the original series. I love the campiness. It's crazy because like it's not like I grew up in the 60s, but it feels nostalgic for some reason. I just love the like retro futuristic stuff. And in this iteration, I got super attached to Spock. I love Spock. He's my guy. I'm attached to like all Vulcans, honestly. It seems a little bit wrong because I'm going into this like very passionate rant about how much I love Vulcans, but like in general in life, I'm like a pretty stoic person, and especially like in my relationship with Eric, I'm like the person who's like, let's like logic our way through this, like let's just calm down. There would literally be times where I would be thinking something and then Spock would say like the exact same words and I'm like, holy crap, dude. Yeah, both Spock and Data get me like really in my feelings about my lack of feelings, if that makes sense. I just love the like holy trio or whatever, like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And every episode ends with some sort of like cringy joke between the three of them, and I don't know, it's just cute. I don't know, watching the original series, it just feels like comforting, if that makes sense. Like, you know that the plot of every episode is going to go very similarly and it's going to be resolved perfectly at the end. I don't know, it's comfy to watch, and I know that within the next few years, if I'm ever like feeling really sad or I'm sick and just need something to watch, like I'm definitely going to fall back on the original series. And lastly, Eric and I are currently watching through Deep Space Nine. I think we're on season 2 or 3 right now. This one's interesting because I have not found a character that I particularly am attached to in this one. I was pretty immediately drawn to Dax though. I like the idea of a lady science officer. I think that's really sweet. It's very obvious from the past few shows that I've talked about that I kind of latch to the characters that are like really intelligent, because that's who I was in high school. It was like, oh, you're the smart one, neat. I guess that like became part of my identity. But Dax, I realize, is not necessarily intelligent. She's wise because she's lived so many lives. She is smart in a way that like I will literally never be, because I can't just take a like worm out of my body and put it in someone else's body. So I also love Kira, but she's a little bit too feisty for me. I think Eric's really a big Kira fan, which totally makes sense with his personality, but I like her and I like what she stands for. She's just a bit much for me. In general, I like all the characters fairly equally, and again, the relationships between the characters is really, really fun, even though I'm not like specifically a fan of one character. And I think DS9 also addresses some like really hard topics, like even harder than what went on in Next Generation. Like there's already a lot of like really heavy stuff about war. Basically war, I think, is like war and religion. There was a really good episode that talked about religion. Deep Space Nine can kind of feel slow at first, but it definitely picks up once you get to know the characters, and it talks about some pretty heavy themes. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about Star Trek now. I could totally rant about it, like, literally all day. But yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next show that I watched this year, which is The Marvelous Miss Maisel. My dad and mom have been suggesting this show to me for, like, a year. It's on Amazon Prime. So Marvelous Miss Maisel is basically about this woman who lives in New York in the 50s, I believe, and her husband is an aspiring comedian, and he's kind of funny, but a lot of his jokes are like modified jokes from more famous comedians, and she's kind of like, that's kind of dumb. But anyway, this guy who steals other people's jokes cheats on Miss Maisel, or Midge as we call her by her first name, and when she finds out that he's been cheating on her, she obviously gets really upset, drinks a bit too much, and winds up at the club where her cheating husband has been performing, and she basically rambles this hilarious stand-up comedy session about how her husband cheated on her, and she's like, what are you talking about? I'm a catch, you know? And it's just really funny. She basically winds up accidentally being discovered, and she also, you know, discovers herself. I don't mean that in like the philosophical sense. I mean, she discovers, oh my gosh, I have a knack for this. Like, I'm good at it. But unfortunately, she's living in the 50s where, you know, people think that women can't be funny. So yeah, it's really interesting. It talks about sexism a little bit, but not too hard. I think it really mostly just focuses on being like funny and entertaining, and it really is. With every episode, there's normally like a little stand-up bit that Midge does for an audience. It's just really funny. I would definitely recommend it. Okay, now I want to move on to music. One of my favorite YouTube channels that I discovered this year is the J Music Ensemble. I discovered them through Adam Neely, who I've been subscribed to for a while, but he featured them in one of his videos. Basically what they do is they play jazz versions of popular songs from like animes and video games and like nerdy stuff. And I'm like, I'm a nerd. I like jazz. So I checked it out, and they have really good stuff. Like, basically all their videos are like 5-minute jazz versions of some theme that you know and love from video games. And it's not just like repetitive like it is in the video game, so it doesn't get boring to listen to it after 5 minutes. They'll put in like a little solo of someone improvising over like Saria's song or something. I don't know, it's just really entertaining. They're all very talented, and it's super duper nerdy, and I love it. Someone else that I discovered this year was Jacob Collier. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I discovered him through Dodie Clark, and he does these just ridiculous arrangements with layers upon layers of harmonies, tons of like tempo changes and key changes. They're just so musically complex, but not in a way that it makes it like kind of annoying to listen to.
And everybody does. Lose yourself in wild romance. We're going to party, caramba, fiesta, forever. Come on,
his music is just crazy. I don't even know if I can describe it, but his channel is just him doing covers of songs, but I don't know, he just makes it so complex. Like when I do a cover of a song, I just learn the chords and I play it, and it's like really boring, but he adds his own like crazy awesome flair on every cover he does. I feel like I'm not doing him justice, but like definitely go check out Jacob Collier. He is amazing, super young, he has a ton of potential. Definitely go check him out. I think this came out last year, Dodie's Human EP. For some reason, I don't think I started listening to it until this year, but I really, really liked Dodie's Human EP. Obviously, I love Dodie. My favorite track from it, I'm pretty sure, is If I'm Being Honest. I don't know why. It's one of those songs that you can't tell if it's like happy or sad, and it just makes me like feel things, and I don't even really know what I'm feeling. I'm just like feeling the feelings. Does that make sense? It's a really good song. It just like makes me want to cry, but I don't really know why it makes me want to cry. I feel like it's one of the more underrated songs from Human, but the music video is really good, so go check it out. And lastly, I know this has been out for a while, so I'm not going to go too crazy about it, but something else that I got really into this year was Hamilton. I was in denial for the longest time. I was like, I'm not gonna like Hamilton. Like, I don't like rap, you know. I just like musical theater that's like normal musical theater, you know. But one of my friends like kept insisting that it's really, really good. And I think it wound up with my mom basically making the decision to say, I'm gonna come up to Illinois and we're gonna go to Chicago and watch Hamilton. And I was like, I haven't really felt the strong desire to watch Hamilton, but sure, I'll go do that with you. It's a free musical, can't complain about that. And dude, it was so good, and now I'm like obsessed with it. I probably know the words to like almost every song. This is kind of dumb, but my favorite song from it is Farmer Refuted. I just love the wordplay in it. It's great song. It's short, it's kind of silly, but it's just so fun, and once you get Hamilton's rap down, you're just like, you feel so cool. And it really just blew my mind because it made me realize that Hamilton is for people like me who have this idea that musicals are like one thing, and they always sound the same way, and they're for a certain kind of people. And it took Hamilton for me to realize, like, no, musical theater is always evolving and changing. You know, Oklahoma is very different from Rent. Why not have rap in musicals? Literally, why not? I think that if you have an answer to that question, it's probably a little bit racist or classist. And I, in the past, thought I had an answer to that question, and I think that that answer was a little bit racist and classist. Does that make sense? it's just seeing those two things mashed up made me realize, like, there's nothing inherently better about the kind of music I listen to. I think I just thought, oh, it's not for me, it's not my style. And now I know that it is my style. And, like, there's a lot about rap that I actually love. I mean, it thrives on wordplay and crazy internal rhyme. I love that crap. Like, I don't know. It just made me realize that, like, I like rap more than I realized. And I haven't really gotten out of my comfort zone yet, but one day I really do want to, like, explore that a little bit more. But right now I think it's a good start, and I think it's a good way for me to recognize, like, that I've maybe been looking at musical theater through the eyes of some privilege. So I really appreciate Hamilton for, you know, having a bit of a wake-up call for me there. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is podcasts. I have 2 podcasts. The first one is called Lingthusiasm, and of course I had to listen to a linguistics podcast. So yeah, Lingthusiasm is like a 30-minute podcast by 2 women whose names escape me. I'm so sorry, guys. But they definitely have the same, like, viewpoints as me when it comes to linguistic things, which maybe causes a bit of an echo chamber, but sometimes it's just nice to hear the same things that you think. When you kind of live in a world where everyone's prescriptivist, it's nice to hear linguists kind of validating you and saying, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with speaking this way or that way. Anyway, yeah, they'll talk about how, you know, kids these days aren't ruining language, or how having they, them as a gender-neutral pronoun is not the end of the world. You know, they talk a lot about language change and how it's fine. They also sometimes talk about, like, the history of language or really interesting things from more obscure languages, and I really like learning about that stuff too. Overall, I really like it. It normally is a bit of a refresher from the things that I learned in undergrad, but I also end up learning something new as well. If you like language at all, even if you're not like a linguist person, they make it very approachable. I would highly recommend it. And the other podcast that I'm really liking this year is Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I've been listening to Dear Hank and John for a couple years now, I think, and I really love Dear Hank and John. But several episodes in, John mentions that he's going to start doing his own podcast where he basically reviews the Anthropocene, which is like very, very human creations. Things like Canada geese being in parks. Apparently that is the fault of humans, wanting parks to feel more natural. So we kind of created this problem for ourselves where we wanted to have geese in a park so it looks nice and natural, but then the geese were like, oh, hey, parks. These are cool places to have more goose babies and come back to every year. So now we have like way too many geese. There was one he did about like Googling strangers. That one was really, really interesting. He wound up basically taking kind of a heavy spin on Googling strangers. And they're really short, like Dear Hank and John is normally I think like 50 minutes. Anthropocene Reviewed is like half that time. But they're kind of just like short John Green essays. You know, when he does the Vlogbrothers videos, they're like thoughts from places and they're very poetic, but they're just about life and they make you think, and the way he says things, it's just so John Green. I can't even explain it. Just the way he uses words is phenomenal. Every time you listen to Anthropocene Reviewed, it feels kind of like you're listening to a little bit of a John Green book. I really like it. I would give the Anthropocene Reviewed 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, the next category I want to talk about is games. At the beginning of this year, Eric and I randomly got really, really into Minecraft. I know this is an old game, so again, I'm going to try not to talk about it too much, but I had never played Minecraft before, and I think it was because I was watching my brother's channel. I'm going to ask him if he will let me plug his channel here. But my brother has a channel where he plays Minecraft and lots of other video games, and I love to watch his videos because I kind of just see them as like a journal into his life. Like, that's how I found out when he got a new car and when someone scratched that car when he had parked it in a parking lot. And you know, I find out like little interesting things about his life, or like, oh, my dad said something funny the other day, and I'm like, oh, that's nice, because like I don't live with him anymore, so it's just nice to hear those things. It makes me feel like I'm back home. But after a while, it became more than just listening to what my family was up to. I was like, Minecraft actually looks kind of like soothing and fun. So yeah, we made a server to play Minecraft together, and it was really fun. I haven't gone back to it in a while. Maybe now that we're on break, I will. But it's just really nice. It's a nice thing to do while you're like listening to podcasts in the background or watching YouTube videos in the background, or to just kind of zone out to and not have anything playing in the background. I mean, everyone knows what Minecraft is. You mine resources and use them to build like a house. If you want to go crazy, you can build like a giant bridge, which is what the last thing I started working on. You can build like huge cities like my brother does. And yeah, it's just really fun, especially when you're playing it with someone else. But yeah, I gotta go reopen my old Minecraft game. I also got super into Tetris this year because Tetris 99 came out and Eric got it. It was like $5 for the Switch or something. So he was playing it and I was like, I haven't played Tetris since I was a kid. And when I was a kid, I was really bad at it. So I kind of became determined to like not suck. And now I do not suck. I've beaten like 150 rows or whatever the most rows you can do on Tetris 99 is. I play the multiplayer one a lot. I think the highest place I've gotten is like third, maybe second. I haven't won, but I've gotten pretty far. When you're doing really well, it's very, very relaxing. Sometimes it, gets a little stressful when you start not doing so hot, but when you're playing by yourself, I don't know, it's soothing to like watch the tiles disappear. Yeah, I became really into Tetris this year, but again, that's one that everyone knows, but it is one of my favorites from 2019. And the last game that I started playing this year was Luigi's Mansion 3. Eric, again, really wanted this game, and I knew there was a co-op, so we wanted to play it together. I thought that this co-op was gonna suck. I have this thing that I call girlfriend mode in video games, where sometimes it feels like a boy just wants to play video games, and he's like, here, girlfriend, play with me. Because you're a girl and you suck, you can be this little star that grabs the star bits while I do everything challenging. Stuff like that. So that's what I thought Gooigi was gonna be. It was just like some guy to walk around and make sure you don't drop any gold. But actually, Gooigi's pretty important, and even though you can play through the whole game by yourself, it is a bit more convenient, I think, when you have Gooigi there. So I never felt like I was like just hanging around, not being helpful at all. I actually quite liked the co-op version of Luigi's Mansion 3. And I love Luigi. I really liked the original Luigi's Mansion. I didn't have a DS, I think is what Luigi's Mansion 2 was on. I've never had a DS or a 3DS or whatever. So I haven't played the second one. But yeah, I do really like the franchise. So, it's fun to hear like different versions of the music and all that stuff. And yeah, I think it does justice to the original game. Okay, the last section I have just kind of like random lifestyle stuff, I guess. The first thing I want to talk about is Blogilates and working out consistently. One of my favorite things from 2019 is working out consistently. At the beginning of the year, I started trying to run every morning, which was nice, and I would listen to music while I did it, so it was kind of fun. But I don't know, I guess I got bored of doing like the exact same thing every day. And one day I was watching Katie Morton. I don't know if you know who that is. She's like a mental health YouTube channel. She's really awesome. But there was a Katie Morton video where she was talking to Cassie Ho about mental health and physical health and how they relate. And I don't know, I guess I just really liked the way Cassie talked about like losing weight and living a healthy life, and she didn't make it sound like it was all about, wanting to be pretty and attractive and all that stuff. I don't know, she seemed to have like a really good mentality about it. Basically what you do is you watch her videos and she will like, it's kind of like, how they used to have like workout DVDs or VHS or whatever. It's like that, but for YouTube. She'll tell you, what moves to do, and she'll be like, come on guys, you got it. But it's actually really fun. I really like her videos. I think they're really motivating, and they're the style of working out that I'm kind of used to. When I was in color guard, we always warmed up by doing Pilates to like different songs, and that's one thing that Cassie does a lot on her channel. She calls it Pop Pilates, and she'll play a song and you'll do reps to the song. It's just perfect for me, and I feel like my body hasn't changed a ton, but my core is definitely stronger. I don't feel like I look tremendously different or anything, but I feel healthier, and it's always, I don't know, it's a nice way to start my morning. I get up and I work out, and I have a consistent morning routine now. And then to go from talking about being healthy to the exact opposite, I have some food and drink that I want to talk about. The first one is this amazing peach tea that they sell at Sheetz, which is like a convenience store up here. It's hard to find decent sweet tea in the north. And I make my own sweet tea all the time, it's fine. But sometimes it's nice to just be able to buy some and not have to go through the effort of steeping and everything. It's peach sweet tea, and it just has the perfect ratio of peach and sweet and tea. That's really all there is to say about it, but it's really, really good. And the last food thing that I got into this year was pretzels. Pennsylvanians really like pretzels. I think it's because of like the German heritage or whatever, but like you can get soft pretzels so many places here. There are literal stores here that are just dedicated to soft pretzels, and I'm not talking about Auntie Anne's. Like there are like local chains that just sell pretzels. I've always loved soft pretzels, but now I just like eat them way more because they're convenient. In the store too, like hard pretzels that come in, the bags, they have so many different varieties of pretzels. We found this kind that's like pumpernickel pretzels, and they're, oh my goodness, they're so good. These are like thick. They're like, you know, this size pretzel, which you've probably seen like big pretzel rods before. But they're also pumpernickel flavored, and you can like dip them in spinach dip, and they're delicious. So yeah, I'm really into pretzels this year. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about that. I like pretzels. But yeah, those are some of the things that I really enjoyed in 2019. But what about you guys? What movies and TV shows and music are you guys enjoying this year? Let me know. And if you enjoy any of the things that I talked about, definitely let me know in the comments, because I will fangirl with you over Hamilton or Frozen or whatever all day. But other than that, that's all I have to say. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your 2019 and have a very happy new year. See ya!